20 years ago, Zhang Ze, who was only 5 years old, was taken away by a mysterious old man. When he returned, he brought back 10,000 ghosts, making him the strongest celestial teacher and the only remaining land deity in the world today. Zhang Ze, how strong are you now? Faced with a curious question from the old master of Longhu Mountain, Zhang Zegang wanted to speak. The ghost baby lying on his shoulder whimpered and spoke. If the gods and demons do not emerge, they will be invincible below the immortals, and they will be replaced one by one above the immortals. Chapter 1. Magic Sports Lottery Shop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Ze. A crisp and tender childlike voice came. Zhang Ze lifted his head lightly and looked towards the entrance of the store. There were 2 elementary school students, one male and one female, led by a chubby little man. He waved a test paper in his hand and ran into the store with his butt bumping. The test paper swayed in his hand, faintly visible, with a red ballpoint pen mark and a 100-point red font. Oh, Xiaopeng, why did you come so early? Zhang Ze put down the colorful picture book with the words, Golden Vase Plum, in his hand and casually put it in the drawer. When he caught a glimpse of the test paper in his hand, he couldn't help but laugh and joke. Are the exam results out? Yes, it's coming out. Look, it's 100 points. The chubby little guy's chubby face smiled and said, Zhang Ze, I've been taking 100 points 3 times in a row. How are you? You're amazing. Very impressive. Zhang Ze, Xiaopeng has already scored 100 points in a row. Can you talk about it now? That's right, Zhang Ze. I've scored 100 points 3 times. As you agreed, if I score 100 points 3 times in a row, I'll tell us about you. Although Xiaopeng and Xiaopeng are young and only elementary school students, each of them has a big problem. Today, they came with a purpose in mind. They are very curious about Zhang Ze's background, specifically his background. Because since Zhang Ze arrived a year ago, he opened a sports lottery shop here. At first, his family told them that they couldn't learn from Zhang Ze. At the age of only 20, he opened a sports lottery shop and waited for death, which was not ambitious. However, just 1 year has passed, and both the family and the neighbors have witnessed a change in Zhang Ze's attitude. The family has reminded their children to respect Zhang Ze and call him brother. Moreover, the family members are also kind to Zhang Ze, and it is not an exaggeration to be respected. Faced with this situation, Xiaopeng and the others are familiar with it. When their parents faced the leaders from the city inspecting the area, they also had this attitude. These are actually nothing. The strangest thing is that even when the city leaders inspect, they show great respect to Zhang Ze, who is clearly just a sports lottery shop owner. Line. Zhang Ze smiled and pinched the chubby cheeks, leaning on the little girls on either side. They were half naked and pulled onto the glass cabinet of the sports lottery store, all curious in their eyes. This is a long story, starting from when I was born. My grandfather told me that I was born in a rural family. On the day of my birth, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky, and the malevolent stars shifted in the sky. 100 ghosts' cries came from outside the house in the mountains. My grandfather said I was born from a malevolent star and destined not to live until 5 years old. As a result, I have been weak and sickly since I was young, so I relied on my grandfather to find martial artists in the martial arts world to obtain old folk remedies and treat my illness. But even so, I still can't endure being 5 years old, but all of this happened when I was 5 years old when a mysterious old man appeared. Yuewen, you are also unlucky enough to fall down on the road. Opening her mouth is a girl who dresses fashionably, wearing tight shorts with exposed navels and short sleeves. Her long hair sways like a waterfall, paired with her gorgeous face, making her look explosive on the street. Wherever you go, it attracts a lot of male glances, but women have to take a second look. But there is more than one girl who is so hot and eye-catching. She was accompanied by two women on both sides, both in their early 20s, but different from them. On the left, she dressed up as a sexual elder sister, while on the right, the girl known as Yuewen was gentle and refined. Each person has their own temperament, and their appearance is of medium to high quality. At this point, Chen Yuewen lightly touched her knee and scraped the skin on it, causing a painful grin when touching the wound. "Oh, who made you walk so fast? You didn't even wait for me for a moment, causing me to walk downstairs so quickly." She wiped off the dust on the torn skin with a damp tissue. "I don't think you can blame me. You've been unlucky lately, riding a shared bike, breaking the bike chain, buying a stock, and then falling after buying it, eating a meal, and still getting bugs. I see you're unlucky." The hot pants girl had just finished speaking, and the intellectual elder sister beside her nodded in agreement, jokingly saying, "Yuewen, you're really unlucky. I feel like you've been injured every 3 to 5 days lately. I'm afraid your head might have been lowered. What's the point of bowing your head? Why are you two so superstitious? You should believe in science." Chen Yuewen glanced at the two women, but still sighed. "But it's really unlucky. Last time I went on a business trip to Thailand, I didn't negotiate a contract. It's really annoying," she said, pinching her shoulder. "What's wrong with your shoulder?" Ji Xingyujie said with concern as she saw her movements. "I haven't rested well lately, and my shoulders are a bit heavy." Chen Yuewen moved her shoulders a few times and said, "Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's go where we're going to play next. Go buy some scrapers." The girl in the hot pants pointed forward with joy on her delicate makeup. Chen Yuewen and the others took the opportunity to take a look. Not far ahead, there is a shop called Destined Sports Lottery. The shop is not big, like most sports lottery shops, only a few dozen square meters small. Walk around, finish your meal, and have a good time scraping to transfer the fortune for Yuewen. The hot pants girl's eyes lit up, full of financial obsession. She rubbed her hands as she spoke, and without waiting for Chen Yuewen's consent, she grabbed one person from each side and ran towards the sports lottery store. Sports lottery shops can not only buy lottery tickets, but also scrape. Many people have always gone to sports lottery shops not to buy lottery tickets, but to buy scrapers. The probability of winning this lottery is high, although it costs 50 or 100 yuan, it is still an occasional pastime after tea and dinner. Soon, Chen Yuewen and her 3 companions arrived at the entrance of the store, and just before they were about to enter, they heard a childish voice coming from inside the store. The voice is disdainful without concealment. "Stop, Zhang Ze, you are not sincere. You are sure that you are talking about your business? Why do I listen like a TikTok supernatural short play? I have been weak and sickly since I was 5 years old, and was picked up by a mysterious old man. It's just that, Zhang Ze, you're playing tricks. Zhang Ze, you said that I have heard something similar. We are young, which doesn't mean we don't play TikTok." The words emanating from the store surprised Chen Yuewen and her companions one after another. "I saw 2 children wearing uniforms and complaining to a young man with a strong sense of righteousness. Oh, that man is so handsome." The girl's repaired eyelashes in hot pants trembled, blinking her eyes, and her gaze was drawn to Zhang Ze. Even the intellectual elder sister who has always disliked men glanced sideways at Zhang Ze, and Chen Yuewen was also surprised. Faced with the complaints of Xiao Pang and the other 3, Zhang Ze shrugged and spread out his hand. "I'm not lying to you. What I said is indeed true. If you don't believe me, forget it. We have guests. Do you want to buy lottery tickets or scrapers?" Zhang Ze greeted with a polite smile. "Are you the shop owner?" The hot pants girl was surprised and instinctively blurted out. She often goes to sports lottery shops. According to common sense, most of the people who open sports lottery shops are middle-aged and elderly people who have nothing to do after retirement. It's the first time I've seen a young man open a sports lottery shop, and he looks even better than the male celebrities she's after. Yes. Zhang Ze was not surprised to see that many customers who came to the store knew he was the owner. Let's buy a scraper and give me a 50 yuan one. Although the hot pants girl only looks at handsome guys, she still hasn't forgotten the purpose of this trip. She turned around and asked Chen Yuan and the other two. And you guys? I also want one. Give me a picture. Chen Yuan pinched her shoulder, her eyes revealing a hint of doubt. What's wrong? Asked Jishin Yujie. No, Chen Yuan shook her head and withdrew her hand from her shoulder. I just feel that my shoulders are much better now, and they don't feel so heavy all at once. I don't know if it's an illusion, but she felt that as soon as she entered the sports lottery store, her shoulders, which had previously felt heavy and sore, suddenly became relaxed and even felt a bit refreshed. The whole person has become much more energetic. Chapter 2. You and I are destined. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Yuan didn't pay much attention and casually took the scrape and scrape music handed over by Zhang Ze. Give me 300,000 yuan, please, murmured the hot pants girl, her hands clasped together, holding a scraping instrument in her palm. Their actions. The two chubby children around giggled. Sister, my mom said, buying scrapers, lottery tickets, and so on, we can't expect to get rich overnight, it's not realistic. Xiaopeng chuckled. But give it a try, the bike will turn into a motorcycle. The hot pants girl pinched the chubby face. As she spoke, she took out a 1 yuan coin and quickly started scraping and scraping. Soon. The hot pants girl's expectation turned into disappointment in her eyes, and she pursed, I vomited. I didn't even get a 50, what about you? I didn't hit either. Executive sister followed closely behind and finished shaving, pulling her drooping long hair behind her ear. The hot pants girl's disappointed expression softened a bit upon hearing this, but just as she was about to speak, Chen Yuan on the other side suddenly spoke. I seem to have hit. Its voice is not loud, but in this small shop, everyone can hear it. The girl in the hot pants widened her eyes and said, got it. Quick, let me take a look. The two little chubby elementary school students were also diverted from their attention. They ran up and poked their heads, leaned forward to look at the scraping music in front of Chen Yuan's desk. In the spotlight on Chen Yuan's scraping music, in addition to scraping out a bunch of numbers, there is a character called Fate mixed in. Can this be considered a hit? Why isn't it a high or red character? The hot pants girl was shocked. After all these years of scraping and scraping, she had never seen a scraping and scraping instrument with the character Fate as the winning character. Usually, it was happiness or red. Chen Yuan was also stunned. With a hot pants girl as her best friend, she played scraping music a lot. Boss, can I be considered a winner? Chen Yuan instinctively handed the winning scratch music to Zhang Ze. But it was just about to be delivered. The two chubby elementary school students who approached exclaimed in surprise one after another. Oh my goodness, Zhang Ze, this little sister has won the lucky award. Is this what my mom said about the lucky prize only available in Zhang Ze's store? No, I have to go tell my mom that someone has won Zhang Ze's lucky prize. Lucky award. Only available in Zhang Ze's store. What does it mean? Chen Yuan and the three women looked at each other and could all see the doubts in each other's eyes. I won the prize, Zhang Ze said at this moment. Immediately, he took Chen Yuan's scrape and scrape music, glanced at the character, Fate, on it, and couldn't help but smile in his heart. After waiting for half a year, he finally met another destined person. Handsome guy, is Yuan really in love? The hot pants girl first said with confusion. Chen Yuan agreed, boss, how much money did I get? She doesn't know why it's the word fate, but as long as she knows a little bit, it's Zhang Ze who said she won the prize. However, the next second, Zhang Ze's words poured cold water on Chen Yuan and the others. I didn't win. He rubbed his chin and grinned. What do you say? You didn't win money, it was fate. In medium to medium terms, you and I have fate. I can help you with a favor, and we can form a good relationship. What? Chen Yuan and her three companions were dumbfounded, staring strangely at Zhang Ze, who looked handsome in front of them. He not only had a perfect appearance, but also had a perfect figure, an absolute masculine demeanor. But how to say it, it's not a male god at all, it's more like a male lunatic. What kind of ghost, still dating? I'm talking about handsome guys. Are you trying to flirt with my Yuan? If so, I can help you match up, don't you have to play so awkward, right? The hot pants girl couldn't help but laugh and cry. In her opinion, she treated Zhang Ze as a flirtatious behavior. Intentionally giving Chen Yuan a homemade scratch sheet and then hanging a prize to get close to her. Jixing Yujia didn't speak, but her eyes were the same as those of a hot pants girl, obviously with the same thoughts. Just this idea hasn't passed a few seconds. Mom, come and see, someone has won a lucky draw. Xiao Pang stood at the store door and shouted towards the nearby residential building. Although a person is small, their voice is surprisingly loud. Chen Yuan and the others were all startled, and then under their silly gaze, the neighboring shops and other surrounding shops that first heard the shouting ran out with many people, all of whom were shop owners or residents of this residential area. Did you win? Who won? Someone won the lucky draw again. Tell me who it is, isn't it Xiao Peng, you stinky kid? They gathered around the entrance of the store and swarmed in. When I learned that Chen Yuan had won the prize, all three of Chen Yuan, without exception, clearly saw that many of the onlookers showed envy, as if winning this so-called fate prize was no different from winning $1 million lottery. Their strange behavior left them puzzled. Among them, hot pants girls are the most confused. Originally, the Fate Award was only created to tease her best friend Chen Yuan, but judging from the reactions of people around her, it seems that this is not the case. After all, no matter how much provocation you try, you wouldn't be able to hire so many wingmen, and they've only been to this neighborhood for the first time. A group prank program. Without waiting for Chen Yuan and the others to think more, many people greeted each other with smiling faces. Beauty, was it your lucky draw? Did you redeem the prize? No, Chen Yuan instinctively responded to the continuous inquiries from the crowd. Next second. Everyone was overjoyed upon hearing this. Can you sell me your lucky draw for 1,000 yuan? I'll buy it. Get out of here, Lao Li. If you want to buy it for 1,000 yuan, I'll give you 20,000 yuan. Give me face, I'll give you 30,000 yuan to buy. In the future, if you come to my milk tea shop to buy milk tea, I'll give you a discount. The sound echoed in the ears as neighbors vied to purchase the lucky award. Chen Yuan, the third daughter, was overwhelmed by the current situation and had no idea what was going on. Isn't it just a homemade scratch chart? As for that, just spend tens of thousands of yuan on the key. Why are you still making phone calls, calling friends and notifying them about the lucky draw? Is it such a big game? They are not fools. There are at least a few dozen people on site. If they were to invite group performances to do the show, the acting skills of these group performances would be too impressive and realistic. They couldn't help but look at Zhang Ze. As the initiator, Zhang Ze looked at it with a smile on his face, as if he had no intention of intervening. The store is in chaos now, but he doesn't mind. He only cares if someone wins the lucky draw, and if he can form a good relationship, everything else doesn't matter. But he also had no intention of letting the situation escalate. He couldn't underestimate the effect of the neighbors calling out friends. He looked at Chen Yuan, who was looking towards him, and slowly said, "Do you want to sell it? Although you are someone who is destined for me, if you resell the fate prize to others, the fate will also be given to them. Chen Yuan was stunned and lowered her head to look at the scraping music in her hand. The temptation of tens of thousands of yuan may have been sold by others, but she was different. For tens of thousands of yuan, she really didn't need that little money. Finally, she thought for a moment and shook her head to refuse the crowd. I'm sorry, I don't plan on selling this scratch chart. At the moment the words were spoken, they all saw clearly the regrets, disappointments, and pain on the faces of the neighbors around them, wishing they hadn't bought the fate prize. This scene. Even Chen Yuan, no matter how strange and puzzled she may be, feels like she accidentally fell for something she couldn't help but fall for. Chapter 3. Give me one night's time. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhang Ze was not surprised by Chen Yuan's refusal. So far, no one who has won the lucky draw has sold the lucky draw. Since he doesn't sell it, let's go back first. Remember to come and buy a scraper when you have time, Zhang Ze said in a roundabout. Next up. Chen Yuan and the others saw that the neighbors, including the elderly and uncles, were all smiling at Zhang Ze. Zhang Ze, my house has cooked red bean soup. If you want to drink it, remember to come and I'll keep it for you. Let's go first, Xiaopeng. When we go home, they all tell you not to keep digging into Zhang Ze's store every day and causing trouble for him. Zhang Zegang, I'll go home first. Goodbye, I'll come see you tomorrow. Don't make up any more stories. PRPR. Little Pang and his companion little girl stuck out their tongues. Watching everyone go. Chen Yuan now has the opportunity to talk to Zhang Ze. Can I exchange your help for this scratch chart that won the Fate Award with you? She carefully thought about it during this period, and as Zhang Ze had said before, lucky award clearly means that she can ask Zhang Ze for a favor. Yes, you can understand it that way, Zhang Ze nodded. It seems that there is no need to explain to someone who is destined this time. The other party is quite clever and has understood the meaning of the Fate Award. How can I help you? Give me the money, contribute. What is the exchange deadline? What specific help can I do? Faced with Chen Yuan's curious expression, she asked the baby 100,000 Ys. Zhang Ze smiled and patiently said, there is no redemption time limit. You can come to me to redeem from birth to death. Chen Yuan and the other three were stunned again. You said that, handsome boy, what kind of straight male cancer? From birth to death, you even want to find you after Yuan's death, playing such a pervert. The hot pants girl laughed and roast. However, her roast brought Zhang Ze back with a smile. Actually, she is willing to come to me even if she dies. What's wrong, can you still help revive Yuan after her death? Hee, said the hot pants girl. It's not impossible either, Zhang Ze stroked his chin. Who made you my destined person? It's not easy to form a good relationship these days. Blowing big. Chen Yuan and the three women spoke in unison. The girl in the hot pants rolled her eyes and put on an expression of, I believe in your nonsense. Zhang Ze is too lazy to explain. Some things cannot be explained clearly just by explanation, especially these mystical things. As for the specific help, you can do anything, but on the other hand, I'm not helping in vain. You have to give some effort, of course not in that aspect. As soon as Zhang Ze spoke, Chen Yuan and the others immediately stopped trying to protect their breasts, thinking that Zhang Ze was acting out of desire. Any busyness is fine. Chen Yuan asked tentatively. Yes, money, power, and status, as long as you want, I can help you. If you want money, I can set up a wealth fortune formation for you, or find the god of wealth to give you some wealth luck. Handsome guy, you look at feng shui for your emotions. As the girl in hot pants spoke, she suddenly remembered something. With beautiful eyes and a smile like the moon, she said to Chen Yuan. Yuewen, this handsome guy can do anything for you. Why don't you let her help you complete the contract you couldn't negotiate a few days ago? Haha. She wants to play a trick on Zhang Ze. Chen Yuewen raised her eyebrows. Not to mention, she did have some heart-wrenching proposals, but not to tease Zhang Ze, but to complete the contract negotiation, which is related to the future development of the company. If we can negotiate, her future promotion path will basically be smooth sailing. Just quickly shook his head again. Chen Yuewen has a bitter smile. What am I thinking? I'm going crazy trying to negotiate a contract. But thoughts popped up in her heart, instinctively lifting her head and taking a glance at Zhang Ze. Look at this. For some unknown reason, looking at her face and exuding demeanor, she had a strange idea. If it were feasible to be a dead horse and a living horse doctor. Can you help me complete the contract that I can't handle? The words blurted out, and Chen Yuewen immediately covered her mouth and regretted it. What are you thinking? Even if the other person's temperament doesn't look like an individual lottery shop owner at all, and they seem to have extremely high cultivation, it is impossible for them to really help themselves. Just as Chen Yuewen was about to change her tune. Sure. Two simple words, spoken from Zhang Ze's mouth. Not only Chen Yuewen, but also the hot pants girl and intellectual lady have lost their composure. Did you really agree? The girl in hot pants opened her mouth slightly, expressing surprise. At this moment, Ji Xingyu Jie couldn't help but speak up. No, you don't even know what the contract one said is. Just agree, you treat yourself too seriously. Is the contract from Thailand correct? Zhang Ze interrupted the two calmly. As he spoke, he touched the belly of his left index finger and the old god slowly said. This is a bit troublesome, but it's not something we can't help. How could you know that the contract I mentioned is from Thailand? Chen Yuewen's beautiful eyes were burning, not happy at all because Zhang Ze agreed to help, but rather shocked. Why did Zhang Ze know that his contract was with a Thai company? A stalker. Are you waiting for yourself here with a premeditated plan? She had no way or time to verify these ideas, and Zhang Ze had already spoken up. Give me one night, you can go talk about the contract tomorrow morning, I guarantee you can negotiate it. Also. Zhang Ze walked up and before Chen Yuewen could react, he lightly patted her shoulder as if making a promise. See you soon. In her pupils, Chen Yuewen's shoulders were stained with eerie small footprints and fingerprints, which were very small and not the size of adults, but rather children. With his slap, the footprints and fingerprints completely dissipated, and Chen Yuewen felt a lightness on her shoulders. Since entering the store, her heavy and slightly relieved shoulders were incredibly relaxed at this moment, indescribably comfortable. Take less things from Thailand, there are many evil things over there, even if they are gifts from others. Zhang Ze tilted his head at Chen Yuewen and walked back to the counter without looking back. Faced with Zhang Ziyun's words in the mist, the hot pants girl and the girl couldn't understand, but Chen Yuewen was suddenly stunned and a small jade pendant appeared in her mind. This is when she went to Thailand to discuss business, a colleague gave her a jade pendant in Thailand. From the inexplicable reaction on her shoulders, and from what Zhang Ze had said earlier, she vaguely did not feel that Zhang Ze's words were a coincidence at this moment. Chen Yuewen's eyes showed suspicion. It's time for dinner. Come back to me tomorrow. I have to go to Uncle Zhang's house to have red bean soup. At this moment, Zhang Ze said, glancing at the time, it was almost dinner time. Next up. Regardless of Chen Yuewen and the others, they were forced to see off the guests directly. After thinking about it, they didn't plan to stay. Anyway, whether Zhang Ze was bragging or not, they would be able to see tomorrow morning. At the same time, Zhang Ze was manually pulling down the iron door of the store, preparing to close and drink red bean soup, but his gaze was fixed on Chen Yuewen, who was gradually fading away. In the eye. After being 100 meters away from the sports lottery store, Chen Yuewen appeared in horror, and a strange figure crawled out of thin air not far away. The whole body was pitch black, as if charred. He was petite and about the size of a baby, but his eyes were black and huge. His pupils and whites were as black as ink. It exuded a lifeless aura all over, swaying its limbs and climbing up to Chen Yuan like a strange creature, finally lying on her shoulder. See the situation. Zhang Ze's eyes narrowed slightly, and then inexplicably, a rustling voice came from beside him. The Guman children in Thailand are really rare. Its sound is as dull as a bell and cauldron, echoing with a buzzing sound, as if the speaker has a huge physique and speaks with a grandeur. The situation was extremely eerie. Although there was only Zhang Ze at the moment in the store, another voice that was clearly not Zhang Ze appeared out of thin air. However, Zhang Ze was not afraid and instead started talking to him. It's really rare, why? Aju, you have some ideas. Zhang Ze glanced at the air behind him. Next second. Sound comes from the air. That girl named Yuan has a prosperous career, especially in recent years. She should have negotiated a contract, but if it didn't work out, she would be fooled. It's probably because she lowered her head and asked Guman Tong to follow her as a lowered head mage. After pausing for a moment, he continued. That Guman Tong, I want to eat it, Master Bowing Head, I also want to eat it. I haven't tasted what Guman Tong and Master Bowing Head taste like yet. Then you go take care of it, Zhang Ze replied with a smile, indifferent in his words, only reminding him, just don't make too much noise for me. I still want to complete my marriage with peace of mind and not be disturbed. Okay. Chapter 4. The Death of Guman Tong. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 5. Head Lowering Mage. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Until I ran a long distance. Chen Yuan and the others just stopped. I can't hear the babies cry anymore. The hot pants girl was panting heavily, her hands propped up on her knees, and her eyes looked back and forth, carefully listening to whether the previous baby cry was still there. I can't hear you either. Chen Yuan put her hand on her shoulder again, hesitated for a moment, but still spoke out, well. My shoulders don't seem to be sore anymore. When she relaxed, she found that her shoulders were completely painless, not sour, not heavy, and had no problems. Are you sure? The hot pants girl ran too fast and her face turned pale red, looking even more tempting. To be honest, on this old street in the evening, when encountering a baby barking again, Chen Yuan's shoulders were inexplicably sore and recovering, making it difficult for the two to be connected. Even the intellectual elder sister who has always been materialist cannot remain calm. Yuan, you're not really hitting ghosts, are you? Exclaimed the hot pants girl. After negotiating a contract with you in Thailand, your shoulders hurt from time to time and you've been unlucky every day. You probably hit ghosts in Thailand, right? At this moment, Zhixing Yujie also repaired her sword and said, Thailand is not quite evil. Although I don't want to believe these things, the Yin wind and baby cries just now were too scary, and no one could choose to ignore them. I couldn't help but lean towards the eerie side. Chen Yuan is no exception. She didn't speak, but her eyes were self-evident, and she was indeed afraid. Just throw away the Thai jade pendant when you go back. In addition to her thoughts, Chen Yuan was not idle and immediately set off for home. The hot pants girl and the other two also went back together. In such a situation, there is no room for drinking milk tea. It's better to hurry back. On the way. Under the inquiry of Zhixing Yujie, Chen Yuan revealed all the details before and after going to Thailand. However, the more she thought about it, the more wrong it became. If Chen Yuan really hit a ghost, it is highly likely that it was her colleague surnamed Wang who did it. And let Chen Yuan tell the story. Behind them, there was a sound of words that ordinary people could not hear. The sound is like the deep mountains in winter, and the thick forests are as cold as bones. This woman is truly malicious. She dares to invite foreign evil forces to harm her own Xia people. She deserves to be killed. At the same time, in the alleys of Old Street District, Bangkok, Thailand, the basement of a standalone old house is decorated with a forest-like layout, with trapezoidal wooden tables on both sides of the walls, displaying a magical sculpture with a strange appearance, a beast head and a human body, some with 3 heads and 6 arms, sharp teeth and a sharp mouth. On the wall hung a dazzling array of skulls of various sizes, including animal bones and human bones, arranged in clusters and adorned with various ghostly talismans. And there is a sacrificial table placed in the middle of the room. Unlike ordinary offerings, a pot of blood from an unknown animal is placed, and a thick incense stick is inserted into the pot, strangely standing upright. The fragrance wafted through, casting a hazy and eerie veil over the already eerie room. Besides, a middle-aged man sitting cross-legged in front of the altar, shirtless and tattooed with fangs and claws of ghosts and gods. He kept muttering incomprehensible Thai words in his mouth, and incense wafted into his nose as he exhaled and inhaled. However, it was just as he was pinching strange fingerprints with both hands and preparing for the next step of cultivation. Like a broken jar, it suddenly burst out of the room. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows, stopped reciting scriptures, and followed the movement to look at the trapezoidal wooden table on the left. The sound source came from there, from a statue on display. The statue is pitch black all over, in the shape of a curled-up baby, with a rope stained with blood from 5 poisonous insects tied to it. It is bound in a colorful manner, as if afraid that the statue will run away. He fixed his gaze on it. The head of the pitch-black baby statue cracked open, with fragments scattered around the table and falling to the ground. Even the rope broke inch by inch, and the mournful cry of the baby ghost could be faintly heard. Everything happened briefly, but was captured by middle-aged people. Is the ghost boy dead? The middle-aged man spoke confidently in Thai and flashed a hint of surprise. No, my ghost boy was eaten. Knowing the truth. The middle-aged man stood up and approached the fragments of the ghost boy statue. An extra bone dagger made from the baby's ribs appeared in the hand, cutting through the palm of the hand, causing the oozing blood droplets to fall on the fragments and broken ropes, kneading them together and murmuring some kind of spell in the mouth. The spell is obscure and difficult to understand. After reading it for a while, the middle-aged man couldn't be happy and frowned tightly, with a warm anger on his face. Eating cleanly, how could it be possible? Isn't that just an ordinary summer woman? Have you met a colleague? He remembered the reason for sending the ghost boy this time. To slowly kill a woman named Chen Yuewen from the Great Xia. Investigate the reasons behind it. He was approached by a woman who claimed to be Wang He a few days ago, and the other party gave him money to lower his head for Chen Yuewen. He thought it was a business that could not be simpler. As a result, Guman Tong was actually eaten and there was no residue left. The middle-aged man opened his mouth and cursed at the essence of Thai language, then picked up his phone on the table and dialed a phone. Not long ago. The phone was connected, and on the other end was a woman speaking. She was not very old and was in her early 30s. Master Para, why are you calling me? Is there anything I need to do? Yuewen has taken care of it. For the convenience of communication, she changed her tone and spoke Thai to communicate with him halfway through. I haven't dealt with it, Miss Wang. There's a problem with your business. There's an expert behind that person named Chen Yuewen, and my Guman Tong has been killed. The middle-aged man said with some dissatisfaction. Miss Wang is what you said. Chen Yuewen is just an ordinary person, but obviously not. This. The woman known as Miss Wang is feeling a headache at the moment and is at a loss, saying. I don't know that there are also experts behind Yuewen. What should I do? Do you have any way to kill Yuewen, Master Para? I won't be discovered by Yuewen, right? I can kill, but said Master Tongpula in a deep voice, I need to pay more. He didn't leave any ink on it either, he gave an explanation directly. My Guman child is not just a simple ghost child. He has 50 years of Taoist practice and has been practiced by me for a long time. Even ordinary Daxia Taoists cannot handle him. But now that it has been killed, it is still being swallowed raw. I suspect there is a cult like me, and my Taoist conduct may not be inferior to mine. If I want to kill it, it will take some effort, so the price cannot be calculated based on killing ordinary people. Miss Wang breathed a sigh of relief and said, money is not a problem. How much do you say about the price? She doesn't care about the price, and now she's on the verge of being attacked. If Chen Yuan finds out she's harmed, even if she calls the police, ordinary police won't accept it. But before I approached Master Para, she knew that the Xia had police specifically in charge of these mystical fields, and they were 100% capable of arresting themselves. Compared to money, she cherishes herself even more. Anyway, as long as Chen Yuan dies, no one will compete with her for a position. If she sells some of her looks later, maybe she can make it to the shareholder level. Then the money won't be easily obtained. As for whether one is afraid of failure with Master Para. She is not afraid, but she is very clear about who Master Para is. This is the descendant of Thailand's first bowing head mage, and so far there has been no business that cannot be completed with Master Para. Refreshing. Master Tongpula grinned, I will continue to do this business. He didn't tell Miss Wang that if he dared to kill his Guman child, even without Miss Wang, he would still take action. If you dare to eat my ancient man Tong, I want to see which thing in Daxia doesn't have eyes. Chapter 6. Girls, don't panic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as Master Para spoke, he casually threw away the fragments of the ancient Mantong sculpture and came to the altar. Open the lid of the pottery jar next to the table. Densely packed with centipedes, almost filled with half-a-meter-high pottery jars, their bodies stacked one by one, dense enough to shock a person with dense phobia at a glance. And each one was a poisonous centipede, but despite being ignored by Master Para, the hand that had previously cut through the palm penetrated into the pottery jar. It seems to smell a bloody smell. The centipedes inside the entire pottery jar went berserk, swarming towards Master Para's hand, but the next second they touched it, like a startled bird, the centipedes scattered together. Even though the pottery jar was crowded to the point where there was no space, the centipedes still crowded together frantically, leaving a space for one hand in the jar. Master Tongpula grabbed a few highly poisonous centipedes, opened their mouths and put them in their mouths, crunching. The centipedes left outside their mouths shook violently, and blood oozed from their teeth. He disregarded it completely. Continue to grab a large handful of centipedes with bare hands, place them on a blood bowl filled with incense, pinch them to death, and let the centipede's blood flow on the incense and inside the blood bowl. The swirling fragrance is now stained with blood red, bringing up waves of fragrance, as well as a foul smell and bloody smell. Azapana 1 mile. Master Tongpula swallowed the centipede and began to speak eloquently, whispering like a demon, echoing in this eerie room. Daxia, Chen Yuan's family. Returning home, Chen Yuan didn't have time to mop her shoes. She immediately ran to the bedroom, opened the jewelry box in the dressing table drawer, and took out a jade pendant from it. Is this the jade pendant that slut surnamed Wang gave you? The hot pants girl approached and instinctively wanted to reach out to touch the jade pendant. However, just thinking of the baby's screams that had occurred earlier, her hand immediately withdrew. The jade pendant looks like a small Thai Buddha statue. At first glance, there seems to be nothing wrong. After being cautious, Chen Yuan and the three of them carefully examined and discovered the problem. This jade pendant Buddha statue. Why only has 4 fingers? Due to the small size of the jade pendant, which is only the size of a thumb, it is really difficult to see a jade pendant Buddha statue with only 4 fingers, with hands clasped together. A Buddha with broken fingers. The Buddha statue is originally a sacred object, but even a Buddha with severed limbs may lose its sanctity. The jade used in this jade pendant should be quite expensive, not a street vendor's handicraft, murmured Jishin Yujie. Chen Yuewen grabbed her collar and pulled it to catch the wind, hurriedly running home. She was sweating profusely and her body was hot and dry. Next up. She replied, yes, it's because this jade is relatively expensive that I thought about staying. Who knows? It's so hot. Speaking of later, she unconsciously increased the frequency of pulling clothes. Yuewen, why do you sweat so much? The hot pants girl and the other two were startled. Later on, they noticed that Chen Yuewen was sweating profusely and her face was flushed. Although it was scorching summer and she had come back, she wouldn't have run like this. Just as they were surprised, Chen Yuewen was so hot that she wanted to scream. Yes. It's just a scream. It's too hot. This is no longer a temperature of 30 or 40 degrees. It feels like my whole body is surrounded by fire, and I am being roasted by it. Yuewen. 1-1. The hot pants girl and the other two changed colors, and Chen Yuewen's condition was not right. She was not only sweating, but her hair and pores all started to smoke, and even her skin started to blister. The degree looks like bubbles burned by fire. They were frightened, and even if Chen Yuewen ignited the next second, they wouldn't find it strange. For a moment, they panicked and didn't know what to do. Ladies, don't panic. Thick and eerie words came out of nowhere, and the hot pants girl and the other two were frightened. The hot pants girl was even more frightened and fell to the ground. At the moment of the sound, they looked in terror at the air behind Chen Yuewen, and a purple flame suddenly ignited. Like a raging fire igniting a prairie fire. In the blink of an eye, the flames ignited into a raging fire, charging straight towards the ceiling. The flames were fierce, but there was no time to manage whether the fire would burn down the house their pupils contract suddenly. In the towering purple flames, a huge figure emerged, towering and towering, as if an unstoppable mountain. The ceiling, which was only 2 meters high, could not accommodate it. The current house is really small, the beam is just that small. As Pang Ran's massive figure spoke, a raging flame condensed and eventually condensed into a body height that touched the ceiling. It didn't hesitate to move in its hands. It opened its huge palm and grabbed Chen Yuewen. Respected destined person, with me here, you cannot die. Ah! The girl in hot pants screamed in fear. They finally saw the figure of the newcomer clearly. It was a ghostly figure wrapped in purple flames all over their body. No, it should be said to be wrapped in purple ghostly flames. The way flames burn is like the ghostly fire formed by the spontaneous combustion of white phosphorus, which often appears in graveyards. The ghost fire in front of me is purple and too huge. Seeing the huge ghostly figure about to catch Chen Yuewen, they didn't care about their panic and went to save Chen Yuewen. It's just a pity. The huge ghostly figure first grabbed her hand, and then they saw that Chen Yuewen was wrapped in purple ghostly fire all over her body, but unexpectedly, the fire did not burn Chen Yuewen to death. She was bathed in flames like that, unscathed, but take a closer look. Chen Yuewen's body was emitting screams like ghosts crying and wolves howling, as if she was entangled with countless invisible ghosts. At this moment, the ghost fire was not burning Chen Yuewen, but the ghosts on her body. Don't panic, I'm not trying to kill your friends. The huge ghostly figure opened its mouth, its voice rumbling and resounding. The hot pants girl and the other two wanted to say or do something, but at this moment, Chen Yuewen said, "Yeah, I'm fine." Chen Yuewen knew that her best friends were worried about her, and as she bathed in the ghostly fire, she carefully glanced at the huge ghostly figure. She is not sure who the other party is, but she is very aware of one thing, which is that the other party is saving her. Without the other party's ghostly fire, she feels like she was about to be heated to death before. Seems to feel the gaze. The huge ghostly figure danced and the ghostly eyes of the flames turned, saying, "I was just sent by the higher authorities to solve your trouble. I apologize for causing you temporary pain, destined person." It bowed slightly to Chen Yuewen. Such a terrifying yet polite ghost left Chen Yuewen and her 3 daughters at a loss for a moment, and at that moment, it continued. "The reason why you have to bear the pain is actually helplessness, because the head-bowing mage who lowered your head is abroad. If I want to find it, I must trace the source through the head bowing it exerts. Now that I have found the location of the fallen head mage, those who are destined no longer need to worry about getting injured. I will solve the problem for you." After speaking, the flames ignited behind the huge ghostly figure, forming a flame portal. Without looking back, he turned around and walked into it. Less than 2 seconds. Along with the flame portal, the flames dissipated like smoke, and the huge ghostly figure disappeared. Chen Yuewen and her 3 daughters stood still in the same spot, regaining their senses for a long time. In an instant, they looked at each other. Although the current situation is confusing, they are not deaf, they have all heard the words of the huge ghostly figure and noticed the key words in it. A destined person. Bowing head mage. As they recalled the huge ghostly figure, the 3 of them couldn't help but think of a figure. Zhang Ze. When it comes to destined people, all they can think of is him. It's the sports lottery owner. Chen Yuewen exclaimed in shock. The hot pants girl and the other 2 remained silent, but their faces were no less shocked than Chen Yuewen's. At this point, they had lost their thinking and only knew one thing. Finally, they understood why the neighbors wanted the Fate Award. Chapter 7. Endless resentment on the battlefield, breeding and nurturing ghosts and gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thailand, basement of old house. Master Tongpula was clasping his hands together, making strange gestures with his 10 fingers, shaking his head and reciting the curse of bowing his head. At first, he murmured lightly, but after only a few seconds, his brow furrowed instantly. On the altar. The fragrance inserted into the blood bowl is burning fiercely, with a burnt smell emanating from the bloody smell, and the blood inside the bowl is rapidly decreasing. See the situation. Master Tongpula did not hesitate to grab the centipede from the pottery jar, and with a forceful tug of both hands, he poured the blood of the centipede into the basin, filling the reduced blood, but everything seemed insignificant. The speed at which centipede blood burns is too fast. Master Tongpula's eyebrows furrowed even tighter, and after replenishing centipede blood again, he accelerated his chanting of spells and shook his head and brain faster. However, even so, centipede blood continued to decrease. In just 2 or 3 seconds, not only fragrance, but also waves of smoke emanated from him, emitting a burnt smell. Master Tongpula changed his color and saw that the situation was not right. He decisively interrupted the chanting and the bowing ceremony. Shit! Accompanied by the ritual of bowing the head, the incense in front of me, after losing the blessing of Master Tongpula, burned rapidly, igniting a strange purple flame with a bang, along with the blood from the blood basin. Damn it, who is the expert behind Chen Yuewen? Without saying a word to Master Para, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of black blood, which was sticky like old phlegm, spraying towards the purple flame in an attempt to extinguish it. However, it was unexpected. The purple flame not only did not extinguish, but also suddenly emitted a terrifying ghost sound. I found you. Master Tongpula, who had a lot of business coming from the Great Xia, could understand the Xia language to some extent. He changed his color and didn't expect the other party to follow his bowing ceremony and backfire. Shoo! The purple flame on the incense seemed to have been splashed with a large amount of gasoline, igniting a towering flame. Compared to in Chen Yuewen's apartment, the huge ghostly figure is now in the enemy's lair, without any consideration. Purple flames surge in the sky, powerful and spanning thousands of miles across the summer, climbing onto the old residence of the head-bending mage in Bangkok, Thailand. The flames instantly engulfed the offering table, rushing towards the ceiling, covering the entire ceiling with a purple sea of flames. The scenery is spectacular. Subsequently, as soon as I saw Master Para, there was a purple sea of flames above my head, as if it was a ghost gate leading to the underworld. The ghostly figure of Pangran, burning purple flames all over, descended from the sea of fire. At this moment, the ceiling was burned through, the 2-meter-high basement penetrated through the first floor, and a huge ghostly figure penetrated through, with both feet not landing on the ground. It seems that stepping on the territory of the head-lowering mage is a stain and insult to it, disdaining to land on its true body and hovering in front of Master Tongpala. At this moment, Pangran, with a body size of over 3 meters, exudes a chilly and eerie aura that shook Master Tongpala. Coupled with the purple glow on his face, his stunning expression is even more stunning. Ghost King! Master Tongpala exclaimed in surprise. He was deeply shocked and didn't expect the evil expert behind Qin Yuan to have a ghost king, who was not an ordinary ghost king. This is the most powerful among the great Xia ghost kings he has ever seen, none of them. Kicked to the iron plate. Is it possible that the experts in the cult behind Qin Yuan are several leaders of the current cult in the great Xia dynasty? Or are they old monsters from the underworld? Various thoughts appeared in an instant, but there was no time to think about it. Master Tongpala realized that the huge ghostly figure was the ghostly king, and his actions did not stop. Wu Yen Yuenda. Quickly lowering the head curse and reciting it, Master Para eagerly pulled off the bone ornament hanging around his neck. This is a bone ornament composed of a large number of baby finger bones strung together, with each small finger bone coming from a baby, totaling 666 baby finger bones. In the summer, the number 6 is a symbol of auspiciousness, but in Thailand, the number 6 is inauspicious. The Thai pronunciation of 6 and falling is similar and considered inauspicious. Is this going to be a bowing ceremony? It's interesting, Thai cult, you can unleash it to your heart's content. The huge ghostly figure saw Master Tongpala performing a terrifying head-lowering spell, and immediately dispelled the idea of taking action. With a wave of his huge ghostly hand, I allow you to use the head-lowering technique to deal with me. Use all your means and don't let me down with Thailand's head-lowering technique. Master Tongpala's face was gloomy, his gaze sharp like a cold blade. Although he continued to recite the technique of lowering his head, he had already cursed loudly in his heart. This is a provocation from Akamoto. No. It's insulting. The other party completely disregards him. Immediately. Master Tongpala doesn't care about Qin Yuan anymore, he just wants to kill the Ghost King in front of him and the mastermind behind the Ghost King. Not long after, he quickly recited a series of obscure head-lowering spells, and the baby's finger bones in his hand burst open inch by inch, emitting various baby cries, including crying, laughing, screaming, roaring, oh. The huge ghostly fire figure, with its huge ghostly hands groping for its chin, squinted its ghostly eyes as it danced, and said with great interest. Is this Thailand's decapitation technique? I feel evil and heavy resentment, nourishing 666 abortions as sacrifices. Accompanied by the wailing of ghosts and wolves, the baby cried. Come out, my Ghost King. Wrap the rope with only a string of baby finger bones around Master Tongpala's hand and shout at a clay statue enshrined in the basement. This is a statue of a revered mother and ghost. At this moment, the statue seemed to have come to life, with sculpted eyes open, blood red all over, and a ghostly aura full of resentment and evil swirling around its body. Kill it for me. The fingers entwined with Master Para towards the huge ghostly figure. The child image of the mother ghost god moved, making a sound of crying, disappearing in the blink of an eye, and reappearing on the back of the huge ghost fire figure. Upon seeing the situation with Master Para, Ling Lai's eyes showed a smile. This is the most terrifying ghost he has cultivated, and it is also a very rare mother and son ghost. Mother and son share the same origin, and both are ghost kings. One is killed, and as long as the other is still alive, the killed can be resurrected. Only by killing two at the same time can we completely wipe out the child and mother ghosts. At this point, the child ghost crawled onto the back of the huge ghostly fire figure, opened its mouth and began to nibble on its back, devouring the ghostly fire on its body, wanting to take possession of it. Eat it, chew it on and make it your nourishment. Master Tongpula is very excited. Once the child and mother ghosts devour the ghost king in front of them, they will definitely be able to grow a bit stronger, and may even undergo further transformation. At that time, he may not really be able to sit on the title of Thailand's first bowing mage. But the ideas are very rich. Reality feels like bones and bones. Is it just you little baby who devours my ghostly fire? The huge ghostly figure did not panic at all, speaking out on its own without concealing the disdain in its words. Its voice did not converge. Being heard clearly by Master Tongpula, the joy that had just risen couldn't help but click. At that moment, he heard the terrifying scream of Zhang Ze. Humph. Zhang Ze swallowed the purple ghost fire in a big gulp, and his entire stomach was stretched out. The previous second it still showed a satisfied expression, and the next second it covered its stomach and screamed in agony. Accompanied by the blood-red ghost staring and shouting loudly, the purple ghost fire in its belly was not absorbed and spewed out from its mouth, nose, and 7 orifices. Ghost fire is difficult to digest, on the contrary, it runs rampant inside the child ghost's body. With the horror of Master Para, I cannot understand why we cannot devour the ghostly fire. Babies are the newborn of humans and require the most nutrition, and even more so, children and ghosts eat almost everything. The huge ghostly figure saw the suspicion in Master Tongpula's eyes and generously explained the reason. Thailand's cult, your child ghost was cultivated by 666 babies' resentment of abortion, but that's just the resentment of abortion. The resentment that formed my ghost fire is the resentment of countless soldiers on the battlefield. The leisurely words echoed in the ears of Master Para. He couldn't help but look at the huge ghostly figure and the sea of flames behind him, his body suddenly trembling. I finally know the origin of the huge ghostly figure and what kind of ghost it is. This is a ghost on the ancient battlefield, constantly undergoing the baptism of the battlefield, condensed by the countless soldiers who died on the battlefield, the hatred and unwillingness before death, and so on. The soul of the battlefield remains steadfast, the resentment endures year-round, and ultimately breeds. The Ghosts and Gods of the Battlefield. Chapter 8. Without my permission, can you escape? You are listening at novelfull.audio. How could the resentment of a baby being aborted be compared to the resentment of soldiers who died in war, and still accumulate on ancient battlefields for countless years? Whether in modern or ancient times, war can never be flattened at once. Wars that break out on the battlefield often accumulate over and over again, accumulating over and over again. Thousands of soldiers are filled with resentment. Missing, regretting, angry, and unwilling to accept various grievances, as well as the longing for the wife and parents who are waiting for the soldiers to return from afar, and so on. The battlefield ghosts and gods born in this way are incomparable to the resentment of 666 abortion babies. It's no different, so a flea shakes a tree. At this moment, Master Tongpula's hair trembled with fear as he looked behind the huge ghostly figure, a sea of flames and figures, faintly audible roaring cries of killing. That is an ancient battlefield. The two armies are facing each other, with thousands of soldiers galloping on horses, filled with fiery enthusiasm. In the midst of sword light and shadows, golden swords and halberds collide, war drums beat, and iron horses trample over like a torrent, grand and tragic. Suddenly, the iron horse roared and charged towards it. Master Tongpula was so frightened that his hands blocked in front. Just looking at the phantom of the battlefield behind the battlefield ghosts and gods, he was there, as if he was on the battlefield. He almost thought he was going to be trampled to death by a general riding an armored iron horse. Damn it. Master Tongpula quickly realized it was illusory, but was also shocked to see beads of sweat sprouting from his forehead. You go too. Accompanied by him pointing towards the statue of his mother and son. The buzzing vibration of the statue of the mother and son, as well as the rolling black aura emanating from the statue, revealed a terrifying female ghost standing behind Master Para. It was also 2 meters tall, with both hands embracing her and guarding her side. Have you even refined the mother ghost? The huge ghostly figure groped his chin and said, Thailand's cult, you deserve my praise. Just praising it for not a second. The huge ghostly figure seemed to have had enough of playing, with ghostly flames surging throughout its body. The child ghost lying on it in pain moved away and flew back to the mother ghost's side. But if you only have this little skill, I'll have to take action. Kill it. Roaring loudly with Master Para, he opened his mouth and spat out black blood on the rope wrapped around his palm. The child ghost and mother ghost rushed out in an instant. Bringing up waves of ghost crying and wolf howling, the black air billowed like surging waves, hitting the huge ghost fire figure and engulfing it, including a sea of flames. Master Tongpula dared not be careless and cut his palm, using his own blood to supply the mother and child ghosts. The mother ghost suddenly grew stronger and stronger. The black air surged even more fiercely. Seeing this scene, the heart hanging with Master Para finally let go. He supplies all his essence and blood, no matter how hard he can cause damage to the battlefield ghosts and gods. If he can kill them, all the losses will be worth it, but this relaxation hasn't even taken the blink of an eye. Shoo! Master Tongpula was frightened. I saw the rolling black air wrapped in purple flames, like an expanding balloon, exploding with a loud bang, and the mother ghost hugged her hair and screamed in agony. The purple flame is like an ancient sword blade, cutting through the black air. Looking at the huge ghostly figure inside. No harm done. It hovers in the air, with its imposing figure still heavily oppressed, powerful, and terrifying, deeply impacting the vision and mind of Master Para. The child and mother ghosts you cultivate are not as powerful as my great Xia's child and mother ghosts, they are not enough to make me fully enjoy myself. The huge ghostly figure spoke up. It seems that this should be your strongest skill, so I should take action now. The next moment. Without giving a response to Master Tongpula, the huge ghostly hand with a huge ghostly figure reached out, carrying a surging purple fire and grabbing the child and mother ghosts with both hands. The child and mother ghosts were frightened and turned to try to escape, but there was still no time. The huge ghost hands followed closely, grabbing the child and mother ghosts. The huge ghostly figure opened its mouth wide open, and sent the child ghost into its mouth. Don't! Master Tongpula's eyes were torn apart, and he watched as Zhang attempted to escape from the big mouth, but the mouth closed. Zhang was bitten to pieces by the teeth of the huge ghostly fire figure. Ah! The child ghost let out a scream in its mouth and suddenly stopped. The taste is good, it's a bit like Dong Yin Gong soup, murmured the huge ghost fire figure. It's even more delicious than the ancient Mantong before. Its figure is too huge. The 2-meter high female ghost in its hand is like a chick, caught by it and immediately sent to the entrance. The mother ghost let out a woman's cry and scream. The sound wave-like attack was so stimulating that even Master Para covered his ears, but even though the mother ghost was self-protection, the huge ghostly figure was unaware and opened its mouth to eat the mother ghost. The sound of chewing is constant. The huge ghostly figure was savoring the taste, but its gaze moved, and the flickering flames reflected the figure of Master Para. Seeing that the situation was not good, Master Tongpula didn't care to mourn that the child and mother ghosts that had been cultivated for half a life were eaten, so he chose to quickly escape from this place. We need to leave here and then go find the master. Damn it, it's all because of that bitch surnamed Wang. It's not her, and I won't provoke those unruly old monsters from the Xia. Run away, this ghost is not something I can deal with. I have to find a master. Only a master can deal with this level of ghost and the old monster behind it. Various thoughts linger in my mind. Master Tongpula was crawling and running away from this place, and his phone was also taken out. He quickly found the number on the top of his contact list. Can you escape without my permission? The sound of a huge ghostly figure suddenly came from behind, and Master Tongpula, who had just pressed the dial button, trembled violently. He turned his head to look, and his pupils contracted into needles. I don't know when. The huge ghostly figure was bending down, with its huge head pressed against his back. The distance between the two is less than a few centimeters. Master Tongpula could clearly see the opponent's ghostly pupils, right behind him, and then the huge ghostly figure opened its mouth without saying a word, swallowing him in one gulp. The taste is not as good as that of children and ghosts. It's a little smelly. It's better to eat luosafen. The giant ghostly figure chewed and made a bone-cracking sound that made teeth ache. It can be imagined that Master Tongpula had already become flesh and mud by this time. Just as it swallowed and prepared to leave with Master Para. It seems to have a feeling, as it looks towards the ground. That's a phone, iPhone 15, but it didn't have time to pay attention to these things. It noticed that the phone screen was in a dialed state and there was sound coming from inside. The listener seems to be an old man, speaking incomprehensible Thai. Pinch the small phone in its eyes with your thumb and index finger, and listen closely. Can you find a helper? The huge ghostly figure cannot understand Thai, but it can be guessed to some extent that Master Tongpula could call the other party before his death, either to his family or to seek help. Unfortunately, I can't understand Thai. The huge ghostly figure didn't deliberately conceal its words and spoke casually. During this period, it never forgets to gather a human-sized flame finger and click the recording button on the touch screen of the phone. It cannot understand the attitude, but it does not mean that its companions cannot understand. While it was speaking, the elderly person inside the phone heard it and realized that the other person was not passing on the message to the same para. They might have encountered an unexpected situation and couldn't help but threaten the phone. Suddenly, the huge ghostly figure, even though unable to understand Thai, could still hear the threatening tone and couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seems like a helper has arrived. It's really interesting. We've beaten the young and the old, but it doesn't matter. Let's go back and report to the higher-ups first. It doesn't care if the other person is a helper, because it's more important than guessing the other person to go back and report, and not to let the superior wait for a long time. As for whether the other party will come knocking on the door, it is not afraid. It hopes that the other party will come knocking on the door, and then it will not need to travel thousands of miles to Thailand. Immediately, purple flames surged, and the huge ghostly figure dissipated in this place. They headed back to Daxia to consult with Zhang Ze about the situation. Chapter 9. Respecting the Venerable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the summer, in Chen Yuewen's apartment. At this point, after the disappearance of the huge ghostly figure, they did not choose to leave the apartment. Although terrifying ghosts appeared here, there was an incident at the sports lottery shop, and they vaguely felt that it was related to Zhang Ze. However, even after a period of time, they were still immersed in shock. Apart from shocking the existence of ghosts, surrendering their heads, and encountering evil spirits, they were more surprised by Zhang Ze. That purple flame ghost must have been called by the handsome boss, otherwise how could it be mentioned as a destined person? Just as the hot pants girl was about to continue speaking. Fated ones, I have helped you solve the problem of lowering your head. You can rest assured and start negotiating the contract. A sound suddenly rang out in the room. Chen Yuewen's 3 daughters were first stunned and quickly recognized their identities. This is the sound of a huge ghostly figure. And when they heard about negotiating the contract, their hearts shook and they looked at each other, as if they were certain. Sure enough, this ghost had something to do with the handsome owner of the sports lottery store. The ghost was sent by him. What do you mean by solving the source? I really fell for it. You. Chen Yuewen immediately spoke up. She has too many questions and wants to ask too many questions. There's no way, the strange situation she encountered tonight is simply more exciting than the sum of her previous 20 years of life. Even the hot pants girl and the intellectual elder sister want to ask some questions. But I didn't wait for them to ask. They noticed that the huge ghostly figure seemed to be out of the room. The three of them looked at each other and remained silent for a long time. That ghost said it's okay now. The hot pants girl blinked and said, so Yuewen, did you really get hit by the decapitation? Did that person surnamed Wang give you the decapitation? The ghost wouldn't have killed someone surnamed Wang, would it? Chen Yuewen looked at the jade pendant on the table that had been smashed by them. Even after the huge ghostly figure left, they were afraid of accidents and chose to smash the jade pendant. It should be her. In Thailand, I have never offended anyone, and all I can think of is Sister Wang. Chen Yuewen's face was complex, and she didn't expect her colleagues to lower her head, almost causing her death. If it weren't for encountering Zhang Ze, she would definitely be dead now. Just thinking about this. Chen Yuewen suddenly said, tomorrow, let's go to the sports lottery store again. Her proposal left both the hot pants girl stunned, and they nodded in response together, okay. Despite encountering supernatural phenomena, humans are like this. Curiosity often outweighs fear when it comes to unknown things, and they are no exception in wanting to explore and understand. On the other side. In the sports lottery store, there was only the faint glow of the night lamps on the table. Suddenly, a purple flame lit up. Compared to the old Thai mansion in Chen Yuewen's apartment, the huge ghostly figure only appears here as flames. Oh, Jiu is back. How's the situation going? It's been so long before you come back, Jiu. You won't feel exhausted, will you, Jie? Jiu, next time don't act, let me take action. A series of different and terrifying ghost sounds echoed in the store. Go, 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 go. When it comes to Zun Shang, the sources of the various ghost sounds know that a Zhou is returning to report and immediately gives a serious response. Respect the family who knows how to make red bean soup and drink red bean soup. Calculating the time, I should have finished drinking red bean soup and was heading to the old man's house who is very good at playing chess. Okay, I'll go find Zun Shang. But just as a Zhou heard this and immediately set off to leave, it was stopped by other sources of ghostly sounds. Hey, wait a minute, Zhou, how did you deal with the head-bending mage this time? Are you impressive, are you delicious? Delicious. Zhou didn't go into any trouble and pondered for a moment before saying, the head-bowing mage is quite impressive, probably one of the head-bowing mages in Thailand. By the way, Xiaolu. What's up? A slightly immature girl's voice came out of thin air from inside the store. You should understand Thai, right? Let's go find Zunshan together. I killed the head-bending mage and got the deputy mobile phone. The head-bending mage seems to have found a helper, but I can't understand Thai. I understand. I was born in a place where I had a lot of dealings with the head-bending mages in Thailand. Okay, let's go find Zun Shang together. After speaking, the purple flames dissipated with a hissing sound. Following closely. The night light lamps also bloomed. It seems that something has run out of the luminous lamp. At the same time. Thailand, Bangkok Old House. Not long after Zhou left, a few people broke into the old house. There are a total of 5 people, led by an elderly man, and the other 4 are middle-aged men. Without exception, they all have ghost-like tattoos on their backs, just like Master Para. The old man is as thin as a stick, with heavy dark circles under his eyes, giving a sense of melancholy. If someone with yin and yang eyes sees an elderly person here, they will definitely understand why there is a sense of yin and compassion. The elderly person exudes a towering sense of injustice all over their body. The weight of injustice condensed on him, revealing Zhang's face full of resentment. It's hard to imagine how many deaths an elderly person has caused such a concentration of vengeful spirit. The old man stood on the first floor of the old house, overlooking the floor that had been pierced through, and saw a tragic scene in the basement, with burnt marks everywhere. All the sculptures enshrined are shattered. Even his exaggerated statues of his mother and son ghosts have shattered clean. I can't find senior brother Tongpula. The 4 middle-aged people went to the basement and upstairs to search for him. No need to search, he's dead. The old man's nose twitched and he jumped into the basement from the penetrating floor. Arriving at the location where Tongpula was swallowed up, he sniffed with his nose. The scent of Tongpula's soul disappeared completely here, as if it had been swallowed in one gulp. The old man reached out to the cloth bag at his waist and took out a handful of unknown black powder. Call out. Spread out the hands with black powder and blow in all directions towards the basement. Black powder scattered throughout the sky, filling the entire basement. A magical scene appeared. The black powder revealed a huge black ghostly figure, as well as a black figure resembling that of Master Para, as if looking back in time. With the blessing of the black powder, they saw Master Para being swallowed in one gulp. This is Ghost King. Same Para. As the old man took out another handful of black powder and blew it into the basement, the scene changed again and time went back even earlier. For middle-aged people changed colors. They saw the huge ghostly figure devouring the mother ghost, and felt a chill on their bones. Where is this Ghost King from? How could Tongpula provoke such a level of Ghost King? No wonder all the ghosts who have children and mothers with Para have died. They exchanged heads in disgust, while the old man beside them remained silent, only staring at the huge ghostly figure that gradually lost its black powder effect and dissipated. Master, what should we do? This Ghost King is not easy to deal with. One of the middle-aged people asked the old man. The old man glanced sideways at the 4 of them upon hearing the words and replied leisurely. No matter who it is, if I kill Tongpula, I will have to retaliate back. Chapter 10. 2 Household Registration Books. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia. In the old residential area of Zone A in Daqing City, there is a pavilion at the entrance of Building 3. During the time after dinner, the old men in the community often come to the pavilion to cool off and play chess. Retired elderly people engage in leisure activities, either playing chess or going to morning exercises and square dancing. Oh, I said oldly, your chess skills are too bad. Lose. Oldly, you shouldn't have taken this step. See, isn't it unacceptable? I mean, you guys, what are you arguing about? I can't even concentrate on playing chess. The old man known as Lao Li Tu was sitting on a stone chair in the pavilion, his hand resting on his chin, pondering how to proceed with the next move in chess at the table. Zhang Ze sat across from him, leisurely waiting for Mr. Li to play chess. The greatest pleasure in playing chess every day is not to abuse the old men, but to watch them argue, which is particularly interesting. Suddenly, Zhang Ze seemed to feel something and looked to the side without anyone. Mr. Li, keep thinking, I'll go to the restroom first. Go ahead. Mr. Li raised his eyebrows, hoping that Zhang Ze would hurry up and have more time to think. Next up. Glancing around, the old man gathered around the chessboard, arguing incessantly. Zhang Ze smiled and walked towards the nearby public restroom. On the way. Suddenly, words came from beside Zhang Ze. Your Highness, I have returned and, as per your instructions, I have killed the master who lowered his head. Zhang quickly recounted the situation, including why Qin Yuan was demoted, caused by a female colleague surnamed Wang, and the incident of being killed along with Master Para and seeking help. As I finished speaking, Zhang Ze spread out his hand, and a mobile phone fell into his hands out of thin air, which was exactly the same as Master Para's phone. At this moment, the voice of a young girl came. Your Highness, I have listened to the recording of the phone call. The monk who lowered his head is not small in origin, named Tongpala, and is the personal biography of the first lowered head monk in Thailand today, Songpashan. Song Pahan said on the phone that killing Tong Para is equivalent to opposing him, and he wants us to be prepared for death. Speaking of which, the words of the young girl voice all conceal her anger, just listening to the voice, not looking at her body, directly feeling the ferocity of milk. Damn it! I dare to threaten you. Do you really think the title of the first descending mage is very powerful? Your Highness, let me go and bite them all to death. It finished speaking and snorted. Xiao Lu applies to participate in the battle. Zhang Ze walked on the road, bowing his head and casually sliding his phone with Para. There are many photos stored in the phone, each one is shocking. It's either an evil cultivation of the human body, or sacrificing a living person to refine ghosts. Among them, there is also a video with Para that portrays him in a brutal and inhumane way of living and refining ghosts. And when clicking on another video, Zhang Ze's pitch-black eyes became deep, and his footsteps paused slightly. In the video, a young boy named Desya who was lost while traveling to Thailand is tied up with Master Para. The other person cries to find his mother, but Master Para ignores him and picks up a hammer to knock the little boy to death. And put it into a pottery jar, nourishing the centipedes in the jar with the little boy's flesh and blood. I, Desya Erlang, have suffered such humiliation. This lowered head mage really deserves to die. I shouldn't just eat him raw. Zhang's voice came softly, his tone so cold that even flames could be frozen. Your Highness, what should I do with that person named Songpashan? Zhang Zexi glanced at the air beside him, as if he was looking at something, and then leisurely said. If the child does not teach the father, and the child makes a mistake, the parents naturally have to take responsibility. He paused for a moment before adding. 2 household registration books. Can the child stay? Zhang respectfully asked. Just as Zhang Ze was about to speak, Xiao Lu took the lead in snatching the words. Nai Xiong exclaimed, of course it's to eradicate the grass and root. Just clear your bloodline, right? Your Highness. Zhang Ze nodded and chuckled lightly. Xiao Lu has been following me for a long time, and he has gained some understanding. Hee, that's right. Praised by Zhang Ze, Xiao Lu expressed his pride in his words, following your esteemed side, I've been deeply influenced by it. Ah Zhou, you must learn something from it. Next up. Xiao Lu could only see his voice but not his form, and slowly came a cheerful voice. Walk and walk, Zhou, let's go kill together. He will move the kindred spirits in the sect, and we will move his whole family up and down to kill the wicked. Upon receiving instructions from Zhang Zefen, Zhou and Xiao Lu did not stay for long. Zhang Ze, on the other hand, was still scrolling through his phone, staring at the content of the same para phone. Shortly after entering the public restroom, Zhang Ze's whispers were ringing inside. Once the first monk dies, the circle in Thailand will become lively. Thailand, Bangkok Old House. After seeing the black powder gradually dissipate, Songpashan said, no matter who it is, if I kill Tongpala, I will retaliate back. However, he did not stop here. Let's go back and get some things. Songpashan's black circles under his eyes moved and his hands were placed behind his back. Although he looked like he was bending over, his movements were incredibly agile. Jump up the first floor with a relaxed leap. A few minutes after they left, a purple flame suddenly ignited in the basement of the old house. Upon closer inspection, it seemed that there was still something wriggling wrapped inside the purple flame. The wriggling little thing looked around and made a childish voice. "Oh, have you already left? It seems that he has gone back." Zhang transformed into a ghostly form of purple flames and said, "You are more capable of tracking. Can you find the place where they left?" "That's needless to say, of course it can." The wriggling little thing pointed towards the west. They walked from there, and the taste was still very close. "Okay." Zhang took the opportunity to immediately catch up, but it did not choose to catch up quickly and deliberately slowed down its speed. Because it did not forget Zhang Ze's command to have Song Pahan die with 2 household registration books. If it follows too quickly, Song Passion may not have returned to his lair yet. It needs Song Passion to go back, and then it will be a pot of tea. During tracking, Xiao Lu may have been too long to go out for a stroll, and he himself is a talkative person, chattering away. "Zhang, when we meet Song Passion, if you eat one of the household registration books, I will eat the other side, and then Song Passion must give it to me. I also want to eat Song Passion. He is currently the first Thai monk to bow his head. Eating him will greatly enhance my strength." "That's not possible, I also want to eat it." "How about half for each person? I'll eat the upper half and you'll eat the lower half. Why didn't you eat the lower part of your body and I eat the upper part? If you want to deceive me, I'll split it in half on both sides, which would be more fair." "Hee, okay, half on both sides." After finishing speaking, Xiaolu continued, "As for the allocation of household registration books, I will take the household registration book from the male side of Song Passion, and you will take the female side. Let your battlefield Yumu head get closer to the female side." "Alright, anyway, after eating that son and mother ghost named Tongpula, and then eating Song Passion, I guess I'll be a bit full. The woman's household registration is already a dessert." Okay, Zhang is indeed a great person. I'll give you a heart-to-heart comparison." The wriggling little thing stretched out several hands to compete with its heart.